Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the biggest stars and talents in the world, and we've got one for you today. Richard Fleeshman, how are you?
I'm very well.
It's great seeing you, and last night here we were at the Theatre Royal in Nottingham, which is probably one of the most glorious theatres in the world.
Yeah.
Seeing a traditional show like Guys and Dolls is really lovely.
It's amazing. To be honest, we've seen, or certainly I've seen, a lot of theatres I've never seen on this tour. I've never toured before, so it's been an education in itself, but I have to say, this theatre is absolutely stunning. It really is.
And it's built for a show like this. Let's talk about it to begin. I mean, this is a story of guys who are sort of always wheeling and dealing and ducking and diving, and ultimately a love story, which all great musicals are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people keep asking, what is the secret formula that makes Guys and Dolls still so well thought of all these years on? But honestly, like I always say, if I knew that, I'd be a millionaire. I could bottle it and do another one. It just has that special something, you know, that's something for everyone. It's funny, it's heartbreaking. It obviously has these two great romantic storylines at either end of the spectrum. One is a very long-winded, they've been together for 14 years and it's not quite got there, and the other one is this brand new sort of promising love that's just starting out. So yeah, it's very different to anything I've done before, and I'm having a ball, to be honest.
What's also amazing, I mean, with Louise Dearman in this, we're getting West End cast on tour. That really happens, but now I think because of the climate of theatre, we're getting amazing West End quality shows in the regions, which is amazing.
I think, especially with this show, I have to say, and obviously I'm biased, but I can speak honestly. A lot of the time when shows go on tour, they have to, just logistically, they have to scale things down. Set-wise, certainly in the band has to be scaled down because of expenses. And it's not very often that you get people who are used to maybe being in the West End who will agree to it. But quite frankly, when this sort of a part comes around, you know, I know Louise has always wanted to play Miss Adelaide. This was certainly on my bucket list. So it was just too good to be true, really. So yeah, it's been very special to be part of.
How difficult is it as a role? Because obviously you've got the ludicrous accent throughout that you've got to maintain.
Ludicrous accent, yeah.
It's a bit silly, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it is. Hopefully intentionally silly. Not like, what is he doing? He's from Runcorn. Yeah.
And then you've got to sing in that accent, and we've got these huge songs. And of course, we know most of them. They've become classics, haven't they?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the only thing, obviously, when you're going out to sing a song like Luck Be a Lady every night, there is a certain expectation. So it's that double-edged sword of going, well, do I do exactly what's gone before to try and satisfy people's wants, or do I try and do a new spin on something that's been sung 70,000 times? Or so there's all these different routes through it, but that's what keeps it fresh, you know. I mean, we've just passed our, I think, 104th show this afternoon, and so yeah, it's all those little intricacies which are quite nice, because even though it's been done so many times before, you do get the chance to kind of try and dig a little deeper and investigate it further.
When you hear somebody from a soap is going into a musical, you immediately grimace and think, oh God, it's going to be a car crash because they've left it and they need a gig. With you, it's the other way around. I mean, you've always been an actor, always been in a showbiz family, and this is a natural place for you to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if you'd have asked me 10 years ago, it was 10 years ago I left Corrie, if you'd have said I'd have gone on to do the things I've done, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I mean, it's been obviously a really great ride, but yeah, it's not something that I kind of woke up and thought musicals is the next step. I knew I always wanted to be in the industry. I guess that was a given just from growing up in green rooms around the country and on sets with my parents and stuff, and I fell in love with it that way. And I also had a sideline of always being a musician. I always played piano and guitar since I was tiny, and so it was, I guess it was a natural progression, but not necessarily one I envisaged. I just knew I loved it, and then just been very fortunate really to kind of keep working.
Where you first really impressed me, I got to see Ghost on opening night in the West End, and I thought it was a stunning performance by everybody, actually, and the show was so beautiful. It's almost a shame it's still not around, because it was unique and totally different. It took theatre into a different direction, which many are now doing and have copied.
That's the irony, yeah. I remember we went to, because I was very lucky, Matthew Warchus, the brilliant director, he actually fought really hard, and I never envisaged it was going to happen. But when it went to New York, he took me with him, which I never, you know, just for not through kind of being overly modest. It's just logistics, like to try and get an English 22-year-old to get a visa to play a 30-year-old American hero in America. It's very hard to try and pull that off, and they did, and I was incredibly grateful. And I remember when we were out there having a conversation with a few people and saying, this is so ahead of its time, both visually and also technologically, that there will be a kickback to it. Be ready for it, because the purists will always struggle with something. And I remember, so I can't remember who it was, but it was very vivid, the conversation. They said, you wait, in about 5 years' time, everything will be LED, big screens, illusions, all that kind of thing, and that'll just be the status quo, because that's what people, you know, now when you're charging Broadway and even West End prices for tickets, there has to be that, you know, films have gone to such a huge level that theatre has to keep up. And it's funny now that I do have a little wry smile when I look around and think, oh yeah, really, and it was a trailblazer, so to be part of something like that was, yeah, really special.
For you to walk into that theatre every night, how thrilling was that? But then to go to Broadway and walk in that theatre, did that take it to another level?
It did. I mean, I don't think I was fully prepared for what that meant, to be honest. Like I said, I was 22 years old, and suddenly I was packed up and shipped over to New York. I knew nobody except Casey Levy, who was playing opposite me, who's brilliant, and she's lived in New York all her adult life, and so she was great, and she really took care of me. But it's really daunting. Like I remember we flew over, I think, like 10 days before my first rehearsal date to do a big press launch. So I did this, you know, all the flurry, and I had this incredible apartment right off Times Square. And it's literally was like something out of, you know, a film. You kind of go, what's going on? And then the press day was over, and I was just in this apartment, and it was -12 outside. I knew nobody. It was literally too cold to walk outside. And I just was like, what am I doing? I spent 3 days on Skype back home, just really, really kind of, I think, missing home and a bit panicked. And so it was a real up and down for me, because I'd had this amazing year in the West End, and obviously being in London and around all my friends, to suddenly being literally picked like one of those arcade games by a claw and just moved across the Atlantic. But that being said, it was amazing. I mean, they do treat it like a religion over there. Musical theatre is so ingrained in that society, and especially in those 12 streets, it's so high octane, and the pressure's very high. So it does take on a different thing. And just recently someone was talking to me about this and saying, what's it like going from things like that, which is very much a business, you know, that a show of that size, there's a hell of a lot of money, millions are invested, and the pressures are different, to suddenly being in lovely Nottingham and doing Guys and Dolls. And you know what's really lovely is this is, we go out and we play and we have fun and we make this show as brilliant as it can be. And no, you know, probably at the end of the night, there isn't investors worrying about where their millions of investments have gone and all that kind of. It just takes all the business side of it out, and actually this just retains its fully artistic side, and there's something really special about that.
And the pressure on you to be amazing, what was that like? Because you go over there and they're looking at you and they're like, well, why did you get the gig? Because they could have hired anybody, any of those leading men could have done it, but they took you over. Yeah. I mean, that's another pressure on top, isn't it?
It is, but to be fair, I was the first one in that queue anyway. I was going, why the hell did they bring me over to do this? Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, yeah, that's the first. As an actor, people think you're this infallible being who goes on the stage, and actually we're all just a bag of insecurities. So any job I've got, never mind being the lead on a Broadway show, any job I get, I go, why the hell would they cast me and not the other multitude of talented people? So that's just par for the course, really. Obviously there's different peaks and troughs of that, and certainly when you look around, there's a 30-foot billboard in Times Square, you go, wow, I'm fully out of my depth here. But it was a great learning curve, and I had an amazing year, and I got to sing at the Tonys and all these kind of crazy things. So no, yeah, just really fortunate, really.
And then we look at your life generally. You leave Coronation Street, and that was the seminal moment where you're either going to make it or we'll never hear of you again. And you did. And you did some reality shows musically, which again exposed people to your voice, which is remarkable. But also it opened you to a fan base of women and guys as well who just think you're delicious. What's that like? I mean, I'm a deeply unattractive man. What's it like being appealing?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I always say this, you know, like, to play Sam Wheat, and you also get the benefit of makeup and lighting and people being held at a distance. But when you're playing these characters like Sky Masterson and Sam Wheat and stuff, there is an element of they fall in love with the character. It's not with you necessarily. And so
right, but nobody wants to look at an ugly pig like me, do they? They want something a bit delicious.
You know what I mean? A huge disservice. I'm sat 3 foot away, and you look just perfectly fine to me.
Let's both go to the audition and see who gets it. Take the point.
Okay. Well, I mean, to be honest, it's, you know, those things I don't really think about. I always say as well, I know what I look like first thing in the morning, so it's all smoke and mirrors, really.
Does it ever become normal when you go on Twitter and see the reaction you get? You put up a poster of one thing or the other, or that iconic ghost picture where they are with all the arms and the guns and all that stuff. Does that stuff ever become normal, that reaction?
I guess, I don't know, I suppose, like I said, I mean, someone said to me the other day, they've just left drama school and this is, I think, their second job, and I was thinking, God, at that age, which is like 22, I'd been doing it for nearly 10 years, in fact 10 years, and you know, like I say, I'd already done 2 West End shows and I was over in America, so it's been a really strange, even though at the time my life felt incredibly normal and really mundane, even when I was leaving school at 12 getting picked up in a car to go to set and stuff, it was very normal. It was I was just Rick who, oh yeah, he's got off to work and stuff. But now, I guess in hindsight, and the older I get, the more I realise that maybe it wasn't quite as run-of-the-mill, and things like that are just a bit par for the course. But I'd far rather that be the case. I'd far rather go, okay, this is all just a big, you know, lovely job. It is a job at the end of the day, and however much you love it, there is times, whatever anyone tells you, however much they try and put the glitter on it, there are times, every actor, every singer, I'm sure, you know, Katy Perry and Justin Timberlake still have days they go, I don't know how I'm going to do this today. I'm exhausted, or I've got family problems, or my girlfriend's just had a row with me, or whatever it might be. And they're the times when you kind of think back and you think to that 12-year-old kid again and go, no, I'm so lucky that I get to do this, and this is so incredible and so fallible. You know, it can run out at any point, and you're only flavour of the month for so long. So it's just very, very lovely position to be in.
And I guess Corrie is a good way to start, because that's not glamorous. It's a proper job. It's long days, and it teaches you that actually, aside from the showbiz of a 30-minute program on ITV, there's a 12-hour day to get there.
Oh my God, yeah. If you want a baptism of fire of not being a glamorous job, do that one. I mean, that's like, you know, crazy hours. And I remember Ian McKellen came to shoot on Coronation Street, and I remember so vividly, he said, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I was only a kid, so I was trying to absorb as much as I could of him. And he said that the speed at which this is shot at, and the lack of safety net, you know, you turn, I was so taught on that job to turn up, know what you're doing, don't mess around, or you will look an idiot in front of the nation, you know, 10 million people. So in that sense, it was the best drama school you could ever get. And certainly in my adult life now going on, the people who I really respect, talent aside, are the people who turn up, do their gig, know their stuff, and don't let anyone down. They're the most enjoyable people to work with.
Yeah, from what I understand, you'll only get away with a few retakes on that show before you're kicked out, because there just isn't time. Literally,
I mean, and also your desire to go again because it wasn't quite the moment you were feeling, and you feel it's like, sorry, the boom was out, so that's it, that's the one. That's the one we're going for. We've got another 7 scenes to do today. And it's only since then when I've gone on to, because I did it backwards, I did that first, and then I left, and then I went on to do other TV series, and I was like, we do 2 scenes a day? What are you talking about? Like, and then they'd go, okay, we're going to turn the cameras around, you've got an hour off, go back to your trailer, and you go, huh? We'd have filmed 2 episodes in the time that we've gone for a tea break. So yeah, it was just a great learning curve, really.
And where from now? I mean, is there any way back to Corrie? Would that be something you'd consider, or is that done?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I think the only downside to something like that is, I think it always looks like a backward step now. And I was so adamant that I wanted to leave when I was 16, and everyone, barring no one, except my parents actually, said, you know, are you sure you want to do this? And I was just adamant. I thought, Coronation Street still, 10 years on, even the stuff I've done since still follows me around, and I'm incredibly proud of it. But I always maintained that if I was to stay to being adult, then it would never go. Like, even now I get still maybe 50-50 is they go, oh, the kid from Corrie, and most of the time it's Richard Fleeshman. Whereas if I'd have stayed for another 4 years and I'd have left when I was 20, I'd have been so ingrained in that show, I probably could never have shaken it off.
And nobody's bigger than that show either.
And nobody's bigger than that show. I mean, it's you know, it's so ingrained in this culture and everything. And why would you want to be? It's such an amazing thing to be part of, and I owe it so much. But just in my personal kind of prison that I look out at what I'm doing from, then I think, personally, I think it might look like, even if it was just because I wanted to pay homage to it, I think it would look like a a step back. So I think that's probably why. And I also don't know how he would go back. I mean, his whole family was slaughtered. Like, it's not like, oh, I'll go back for the memories. Like, his entire family was died or killed one another or something. There'd be no reason for him to go. He'd probably avoid going to that street at all costs.
Do you regard yourself primarily as a singer first and an actor second, or are you in tandem? Where are you at? Because the live stuff is really what you're amazing at. The acting stuff anyone can do, or do you view it yourself as something that comes together?
Did you just say the acting stuff anyone can do? I don't know.
It's only talking, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, okay.
We can all do a silly accent.
We'll agree to differ on that one. But no, I don't.
I didn't say they could do it well. I said they could do it.
Okay, well, I'll agree to that. To be honest, I think I always say my go-to, if you lock me in a room for a week, Eamon, the company manager, stood over there and he will concur, what do I never go anywhere without?
Your guitar,
right. It's never more than 3 foot away from me. That's my go-to, you know, that's goes without saying, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I grew up in an acting family. Like, my parents aren't musicians, my granddad was a musician, but first and foremost, that's what makes them tick, and I love that, and I still get passionate. If I get the chance to do just straight stuff, which I do, between kind of other jobs which combine the two, I love that just as much. So I'd sort of hesitant to kind of pigeonhole, because a lot of the people I really respect and really look up to, often on the other side of the pond, they flit about from everything, you know, like the Harry Connick Juniors and all those people. And I mean, God, if I think I'm asked a lot, imagine how many times he's asked, are you a singer and a pianist or an actor, and you know. And so I guess, yeah, I guess I try and stay away from that. But to be honest with you, and you know, I love getting to do whatever is at the time, as long as I'm proud of it and as long as it's challenging, then I kind of tend to fall in love with whatever it is I'm doing at the time.
For me, there's no greater thrill than seeing somebody you think is going to be average and then blowing you away. And I think that was what happened in Ghost, and that's what happens in this. People come and see you, and I think you beat expectations, which is rare. And then I wonder what's next, because this tour finishes in just a couple of 3 months.
Yeah.
What have you got after that?
Actually, at the moment, I don't know for definite. There's a couple of things floating about, but the main one is my little sister's travelling Thailand. So I think I'm going over there to join her for a couple of weeks. My girlfriend's very angry about it because she's working. But I said, no, my little sister needs me. She doesn't need me. She'd probably far prefer me not to be there, but that's my next thing I'm going to be doing.
Is there still dream roles you want to do in the West End? Is there stuff that you want to do there? Or are we going to see you doing a live tour solo by yourself as Richard? Yeah, I'm going to be gigging actually quite a bit, because I work quite a lot with a couple of boys. One of them who's actually on tour at the moment, touring the world with the 1975, who are really good friends of mine, but they've stole him. I can't think why he'd want to go and tour the world with the #1 band in the world, over coming to do jazz gigs with me, but you know, what are you going to do? So we've got a few things when he gets back over the summer, and then we'll see. Congratulations on everything. I've always wanted to be a giraffe in The Lion King, if you could put a word in. I think I'd be quite good at that.
I think
we've all got our own dream role, haven't we?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Guys and Dolls continues to tour the UK. Great to talk to you. Richard Fleeshman, if you want to find you on Twitter, you're at R Fleeshman.
At R Fleeshman, yeah.
Great. Thanks for talking.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.